Hello, welcome to the Sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Modern Open in Indianapolis. Here for the SCG Tour Spotlight, I'm Nick Miller alongside Ryan Overturf, and you might know him from the commentary booth, but he's got an open win to his name and another top 8 now that we're in the 2-day formats and you're back and playing again.
Yep, at the end of day 1 of this tournament, I was in second place. Going into the top 8, I'll be the second seed, and the goal is to get a little bit above that going in the end.
Not looking for the runner-up finish.
Yeah, looking for another trophy.
Right. So you've been writing for the SCG newsletter the past couple of weeks here for this month.
Yeah.
And you wrote an article saying what you would play at the SCG Tour, and you wrote about Dredge.
Sure did.
We're not talking about Dredge here.
No. So what happened was the deadline for the newsletter is Monday. And there was a lot of moto between now and then. By moto, I mean getting soul crushed by having even my bad matchups have 12 sideboard cards. Mm-hmm. People found out about Dredge. People said, I don't want to lose that deck. Turns out if you don't want to lose to Dredge, you don't have to. There's Grafdigger's Cage, there's Rest in Peace. There's already just bad matchups. Infect is unwinnable. Burn is pretty unfavorable. And then your Burn opponent sometimes just casts Rest in Peace.
Yeah.
I was playing a league. I won a really close game 2 against Burn. Game 3, they cast turn 2 Rest in Peace. I dropped from the league and never played the deck again. So that's the Dredge story.
What you did instead is you picked up this Grixis Delver deck, which you've been talking about Grixis for a while.
Yep.
And boy, did it look good. We had you on camera a number of times. Everything was running just smoothly. You were crushing everyone. You're second seed going into the top 8. You know you like Grixis, but why the Delver version today?
So the reason for the Delver version is I tried really hard. I want Ancestral Vision to be the flagship card for the deck. The problem is there's a lot of iterations of Grixis that beat the creature decks. Mm-hmm. If you want to beat up on Infect, you have Lightning Bolt, you have Snapcaster Mage, same is true as for Affinity, Elves, Merfolk, all that stuff. It's pretty easy to beat. If you want to beat Tron, you have to be fast. That's the only way around the fact that they have more mana, bigger haymakers. You can't go as big as they can, and it's kind of clumsy to try to Fulminator Mage them out of the game. Sure. You just want to get them dead, and Delver's the only realistic way to do that.
Right, and you even talked to me earlier today about how this deck is more of a Snapcaster deck, but you just have to have Delver in the deck, because a lot of the games we saw you win on camera, Gurmag and Tasigur were the real driving forces behind how you're winning the game.
Yeah, and the problem is you can't just play a deck with 4 Gurmag Angler and 4 Tasigur the Golden Fang, because they take a bunch of delve. You're already playing 4 Thought Scour, and sometimes you find yourself with not enough stuff to delve away. Mm-hmm. So you can't just play a bunch of those cards. There's diminishing returns on having multiple copies of that in your deck. So it is more of a Snapcaster Mage in the same way that Teamer Delver is more of a Brainstorm deck in Legacy.
Sure. Delver just
fits the best with those cards and lets you run on a lean number of lands so that you don't get flooded all the time and just draw good spells.
Right. So Threat Brace, of course, Tasigur, Gurmag, Snapcaster Mage, Delver. Then your removal spells. You got Bolt, Colligan's Command, Terminate. You got 1 Pillar of Flame, which you said saved you. And then your counter suite, Mana Leak, Spell Snare, Remand, and then your cantrips, Thought Scour, and Serum Visions. Any other cards you wanted to try to fit in here or mix and match?
There are flex slots with the deck. The 2 remands and the Pillar of Flame are stuff that changes. I've had more remands, I've had fewer remands, I've had more Kolaghan's Command. You should never go below 1 Kolaghan's Command because it makes the Thought Scour Snapcaster Mage engine work. And when you take that card out of your deck, you're just kind of milling yourself, and it's questionable whether or not there's any actual value to it, where the Kolaghan's Command can just make that explode and snowball for you. Multiple copies are clunky because it's only really great against a couple of decks. It's necessary, but not exceptional. The Pillar of Flame was just a concession to the fact that there's a lot of low-to-the-ground decks. I'm already playing Delver to beat the big deck, so I want to not get run over by all the other creature decks. And Kolaghan's Command's a little slow against the non-affinity creature decks. And the remands, they just supplement Mana Leak. Everybody knows Remand's a good card. You don't need me to sell you on it. There's really nothing else that I've considered for the main deck. It's mostly just the numbers on these cards. Pillar of Flame is a 1 or a 0. The other ones are flexible.
Sure. We saw K-Command help you in your winning in against Elves. You just got to use that in conjunction with Snapcaster Mage, keep the loop going until he was just out of creatures.
Yep.
Then how you won from there didn't really matter. Sideboard card. So you mentioned Ancestral Visions is a card you want to be playing in the Grixis shell, but you don't have it in the main deck, but you have a full 4 copies in the sideboard.
Correct. There's matchups, particularly Grixis Control is going to be favored against you in game 1. You have Delver of Secrets. They have Lightning Bolts. We all know how this goes. Delver is just not actually a very good card against interactive decks. So you board those out, bring in Ancestral Vision. Ancestral Recall is a great card.
Yes.
So drawing 3, of course, is exceptional. The game plan against any kind of blue mirror is just to keep up on lands and then find a way to win. And Visions helps you do both of those things.
Sure.
So it's a great sideboard option. I hate that it takes up 4 sideboard slots. And I've tried just some number of copies in the main deck. The problem is you just have spells you don't want to draw in every matchup. And the more variance there is in your main deck cards, the worse drawing 3 cards is abstractly,
Sure.
especially taking 4 turns off to do it.
Right. I was going to ask you about the kind of control matchups, because this weekend was a big weekend for the Jeskai control deck that kind of resurged back now that they have Nahiri. How's your matchup with that type of deck?
So game 1, again, is bad. They have Lightning Bolt, Lightning Helix, Path to Exile. You still have Delver. When it gets Path, that's fine, because you're just keeping up on lands, whatever. But they have a bunch of 1 and 2 mana removal spells. Celestial Colonnade is actually a problematic card, because when you sideboard, you don't want to have Terminates against this deck, but if they just attack you with Colonnade, it's your only thing that you can
Sure.
do. That's not 2-for-1ing yourself. So that was one of my 2 losses. I lost to Pete Ingram playing that deck. I don't think it's wildly unfavorable, though you will lose the majority of your first games.
Okay. Other cards in the sideboard, you got some more counter spells between Dispel, Spell Pierce, and then this one, Counter Squall.
The card's Fire.
Fire?
Yeah.
All right.
So we're playing three Counter Squall. You see some control decks in Modern. Oddly enough, some Grixis decks playing Negate. Turns out you have access to black mana, your Lightning Bolt deck. Play the card that gets them dead. It just doesn't make any sense to play Negate over Counter Squall. Counter Squall is great. A lot of your matchups post board, when you're playing against control, Delvers are out. You got a bunch of Lightning Bolts, a bunch of Snapcaster Mages, Counter Squalls. They have fetch lands, they have shock lands. They're just going to die during a counter war.
Hot Fire. Got Go for the Throat, more removal spells, and then Engineered Explosives here, kind of like a catch-all against things like Hexproof and the like.
Hexproof is exactly it. You can't target those things, and you have to kill those things. I've tried Edicts. Edicts are kind of terrible. They have Dryad Arbors or whatever. Explosives is kind of your only out. Sucks that you can't Snapcaster Mage it, but it's just the card that you should play.
All right. Going forward, what's your advice if you have to tell somebody one thing about this deck going forward? Because we've seen a lot of the Delver decks pop up and then go away in the Modern format.
So it all hinges on what I said earlier, that this is a Snapcaster Mage deck, not a Delver of Secrets deck. If you snap off hands that are 1-landers and you just play Delver Go, you're going to lose a lot of those games because many of your opponents are going to have Lightning Bolts. 1-land Seer Visions is great. You can find your second land. You really want to be getting into Snapcaster Mage Mana Leak range. You're not going to crush people because you're this sneaky tempo deck. You're going to win games in a controlling way. You want to stop your opponent from playing their game plan, and Delver is just how you kill them sometimes.
All right, well, you heard it here. You're in the top 8. The announcement's being made right now, so we wish you the best of luck there. Thanks for joining me here in the sideboard.
It's a pleasure.
Enjoy the video.